So yes, so today I want to share with you on how you can impact innovation with customer insights. Maybe some of you are already working with customer research or customer insight, maybe you don't. So I want to give you an introduction and also share methodologies and best practices. A little bit about myself. So I have been studying consumers for quite some years now, working in companies as Unilever, studying consumers in relation to home and personal care products like brands like Dove and Ox and Omo and Persil. And after that I joined Syngenta, where I studied consumers in relation to food and fresh produce. And for me it was always, you know, the challenge is to understand the why people buy certain things, why people do what they do and say what they do, and etc. So really about insights. And well, I have guided many innovation and marketing teams in the development and also in marketing of new products and services, and I will also share some case studies later on. And in 2012 I started my own company, Fresh Insights, where my mission is really to bring companies and their customers closer together, whether that's business to business or business to consumer customers, start to generate true insights and also co-creation. So today, what I want to share with you is thoughts on customer insights, how you can generate insight and also what it can bring you. I will share some techniques, including online communities. I will also talk about how customer insight can drive your innovation platform, what are the critical steps, and also tactics. Okay, so as Diana mentioned, you can put your questions in the question box, and at the end of the webinar we will look at the questions and I will try to answer as much of them as possible. So looking at today's companies, I mean, it has become challenging in business to business, but also in business to consumer. I mean, due to the globalization, the competition, the information demanding customers, I mean, the days of product push are really over. I mean, we need to understand the customer, and we need to understand the customer's jobs to be done, as Clayton Christensen so good says. I mean, it's a very nice definition, because today, you know, people are really not interested in products and services. Nobody wants to buy products and services, but everybody wants to be served. And I think that's a very important point of attention and starting point for your businesses. And we need to move quickly, because otherwise competition will be coming, and we need to see how we can leverage knowledge better. I mean there's so much knowledge in the company, and how can we leverage that and leverage that into actionable insights that we can guide product development and marketing activities with, and develop new strategies, of course. So, and also, as Forrester research is saying, that we live in an age of big data, and in which firms are really data rich but insight poor. And I think there's a lot of discussion on, so what is an insight exactly, and how do we know that we have a good insight? And that's why also I want to tell you a little bit more about that later on. And how can you also extract insight out of the data that you have inside your business and company. And what you also see is that tomorrow's companies that will likely be leveraging customer insights will be more attractive for customers, because you will be moving actually to products and services that are from acceptable to desirable, because you really try to understand what are the needs and what are the latent needs of your customer, and use that information to guide your innovation platform, your product development, your marketing. But generating customer insights is really not easy. You need to use specific techniques, and I always say it's a combination of science but also of art. You need to have the right people doing those insight activation activities, and the right people going to your customers and conducting interviews, or training salespeople in asking questions in a different way so that you really generate insights from those conversations. Looking at innovation, and I mean, I've been working with Hype already quite some years, starting at my time at Syngenta, where I had a sort of a dual role. I was responsible for consumer insights, fueling all these crops that we had, like tomatoes and peppers, but I was also responsible for innovation and driving innovation platforms. So I combined, let's say, the knowledge that I had on insights and fueled those platforms with new kind of ideas and insights, and I'll be sharing some case studies around that later on. But anyway, as also being an innovation manager and looking at other innovation managers, you see that the biggest challenge that we have is actually that opportunities get lost in translation. So you see an opportunity out there, but you're not able to translate that into the right services and products because you're missing genuine customer insight. And I want to tell you two stories that I learned and got lost in translation. Two of them that are quite funny, but really shows you the challenge that you have and what is out there for all of the companies actually. And while looking into this first example, in China, actually, this product is coming from China. They saw that women were observing women at dinner tables. One production company saw that all the women had some challenges with their hair because their hair were falling in the soup, etc. So they saw the opportunity to do something about that, and I think that's very positive. But then they translated it into such a hideous product that no woman on earth wanted to buy that because it was not making them very beautiful at all. So I think the opportunity was there, but maybe solutions like a ponytail was already acceptable for women, but they thought they were, you know, launching a good product for this need. So they were lost in translation. They didn't ask the right questions to consumers to understand what would they be thinking of in terms of solutions and what would be visible and acceptable and desirable, especially. Another example comes from Gerber. It's a company. It was already in the 70s that this company saw that that there were more single households coming into the world, and people were living alone. So they were thinking, okay, let's develop something for those guys. Wow, what could we think of? Products for single people. Well, why not copy baby products? Because babies are also, you know, looking for small portions. Why not come up with, you know, these kind of canned products for singles that are already smashed, all the vegetables and fruits and potatoes and meat? Well, you can imagine that didn't hit off either. The opportunity was there for sure, but they didn't do the right, you know, customer insight research to understand what could be solutions for that market. And now, of course, you have many solutions in the supermarkets with ready-to-eat meals or stir-fry meals, and that fits much better the needs of the consumers these days. So here you see two companies that saw opportunities that were relevant and actionable, but they didn't have the right insights and tools to tackle them. So what is then a customer insight? Well, a useful working definition is it's a deep hidden truth about the customer based on their behavior, experiences, belief, needs and desire that is relevant to the task, that is very important, and also rings bells with the target audience. So customer insights, as I say it, it's the hidden obvious. It's looking where others don't look to find what others can't find. So what kind of data do you then generate or gather when you're looking at customer insights? Well, you have, let's say, the standard market research data that we call big data from databases or quantitative surveys, and you get a lot of information on current service or product usage from your customers or consumers, and that can be very detailed on what they buy, when, how, where, but very little information about the why. And customer insight data is really all around the why, the drivers, the motivations, the unmet needs, the concerns, the wishes, and it's called qualitative or more small data. And actually what you do with customer insight data is it's like you're peeling an onion. You're trying to understand the source of the information. What is, the motivations? What are the drivers of this customer? You're trying to get into the more psychological space, tell you more about fundamental concerns and values, and that can represent also opportunities for marketing and innovation. So how to recognize a customer insight? So what is an insight and how do we know we got a good one? So first we need to recognize what is a real insight and what isn't. And I think when you do also these exercises internal within your innovation platform or within your sales team or within your product development or any platform that you want to address customer insight in, you need to put down the 3 V's. So what is the customer doing? Why are they doing it? And wow, nobody has ever noticed or talked at such detail about that problem before. So you need to have the 3 V's. Because if you only have the first one, what is the customer doing? It's just an observation. It's not an insight. You need to dig deeper and understand the why that you can do by asking them or observing further or doing some association techniques to understand the why and to come up with new and exciting stuff. Well, and here I have an example of Jill's. Maybe you know or don't know the brand. It's aimed at women. And actually, it's coming from Heineken. And Heineken, well, you may all know it's brewer, Dutch brewer, beer. They have beers. They sell them all over the world, and they're very popular. Everybody likes them, I think, or at least all the Dutch men do. Well, actually these guys from Heineken were observing men in bars, and they wanted to learn from those observations to come up with new innovations and other kind of activities. But what they were learning was the women that were accompanying the men were having some challenges ordering drinks because, well, they saw that. So they first observed the women and they saw that, okay, these women are sort of, they don't know exactly what to order, what's going on there. So they talked to a couple of women. And these women said, yeah, I have some problems ordering because the wine normally, the quality of the wine varies quite a lot in different bars and you get headaches, so you get the Chateau migraine effect. They didn't want that because most of them like wine. Okay, so that was not going to be the choice. And then actually they didn't like beer, so they were struggling ordering something more light. Of course, you have the cocktails and all the other more like with more alcohol percentage stuff, but they wanted just a lighter drink. So Heineken took that insight because it showed them an observation connected to an emotion. And if you see an observation, or could be a quote of a customer or consumer, but it's connected to an emotion like struggles or pain or pleasure, there's an interesting insight behind that. So I think that's a very important thing to remember. It needs to connect with an emotion. And when you see that and you go deeper into that, you can develop or leverage new business opportunities from that, like Heineken did. So Heineken took that insight and developed it further with focus groups and all kind of other creativity sessions, and they come up with this drink, Jills, that is quite popular in Holland in any case, but also throughout Europe. You see it more and more, and even outside of Europe. And it's aimed at women, and it has a constant quality. It has like a sort of a cidery, trendy drink and taste. And yeah, they're doing quite a good job at that. And actually they are, you know, developing a totally new market, women, and with new drinks. So this is one example on how that can be done. So the what, the why, and also the wow. And the wow is also much related to a new way of looking at a problem or new business opportunity. So looking at methodologies and techniques on how to generate insights, well, you see also like insights, like you compare it with the iceberg. It's not what you see about the iceberg, but what it's underneath. And there are techniques that are better than others in sort of digging deeper. You have techniques as the discovery, deep dive interviews. I will just briefly mention something about that. Then you have the ethnography, like the observation studies. You have persona customer journeys, and you have working with online communities, market research online communities, also known as MROCs. So those are the most powerful ones, effective ones in insight generation. And well, the ones that are less effective are just internal data or customized research and reports and other kind of information that you may have. I'm not saying that you cannot leverage insights from those, but it's more challenging. It will be more difficult, but it's not impossible. So when you do look at customer or visit reports or things like that, then you need to look at quotes or pieces of text that is connected with emotion, because most of the time they are the most powerful insights. So let's look at a couple of these methodologies, and also I will share some case studies in that. So the first one is a discovery interview, and that's really good in a B2B environment actually. I use that a lot for my B2B customers. Well, what is it for? It's really to discover unmet needs. It's also to discover how customers use your product and services today. You can discover where your product fits, let's say, their ecosystem, and also how you discover also what are your customers' jobs to be done. I mean, when your customer wants to be successful, of course, in their job, whatever their job is. And what are their jobs then that they need to do in order for them to become successful? And then you can understand, when you understand that, then you can translate that into how you could help them make them more successful and in their jobs to be done. So that is sort of what you are doing in a discovery interview. So it's really not to sell your product. I'm saying here, so no salespeople or salespeople that are trained with the discovery interview. And if you do such an interview, you also need to tell your customer, okay, we are having a different kind of conversation today, and we really want to know more about, you know, your job and what kind of challenges you're facing and how you go about them. And it's also not about asking the customer what they want in the product or what they want in a future product. Because, as Henry Ford says it very, very, very nicely, if I would ask my customers what they would want, they would say, I want a better horse. So, yeah, it's, you know, of course there are some very creative customers out there that can precisely tell you what they want, and they are like these cutting-edge lead users, what we also call them. But you don't, the normal customer doesn't know anything. They cannot imagine, you know, all these new kind of technologies or features or whatever. So in the discovery interview, it's really learning about, you know, what are their challenges, what are their customers' jobs to be done, and you will be asking them more like, tell me about the last time you experienced challenge about whatever job they needed to do, like, I don't know, motivating people to get involved in your innovation challenge, for example, or getting people involved in the innovation ideation tool. Tell me about the last time you experienced that. What was hardest? Why was that hard? You know, really go deeper. And what, if anything, have you done to solve that problem? Or tell me more about the solution that you're using. How satisfied are you with the solution? What would you want to change about the solution, or what you don't love about the solution? So it's really about listening to your customers and write down your observations, quotes, and especially the emotions that you see in the conversations you have with them. So it needs to be a relaxing environment where the customer feels comfortable in telling really about their story. Let them talk about their story, their challenges in a specific subject that you are entering. So looking at another technique that we used at my time at Unilever, it was the ethnographic study. So it was observing mothers with children in relation to detergent for the brand Persil, also known as Omo in the Netherlands, and also known as other names in other countries, to be honest. But during that experience of observing mothers with children, we found a very powerful insight, because this study has been conducted already like 10 years ago, and in that time, especially the detergent industry and category in the supermarket was very boring and you know, like talking about stains, and when you think of the commercials, you saw this white blankets and then they got dirty with black dirt and then they wash it and then they are white again. So yeah, the category was not emotional at all. It was very conservative, functional. So when we observed women in relation with their children in relation to dirt, we discovered actually that mothers stimulate kids to play outside, and they want them to be active and have a healthy lifestyle. So they experience dirt in relation to children as something positive. They experience it in relation to themselves as something negative. So when they have a stain on their blouse, they think, okay, I'm not happy because, you know, I have a business meeting or whatever. But when it's in relation to their children, they are happy. And that was a new kind of point of looking at dirt from that angle. And mothers are actually very proud of their kids getting dirty as they are learning and experiencing and developing themselves in a very active and healthy way. And actually with this insight, and we summarized it as let's say dirt is good, and we created the Dirt is Good brand. We launched the whole brand experience from from functional to quite emotional, and it was fueling the innovation platform with all kind of new ideas, and it impacted the whole, you know, the whole rebranding. So it got from very functional to it's not dirt, it's spaghetti, Persil Dirt is Good. It's not dirt, it's digging to Australia, Persil Dirt is Good. And we were coming from, as you may remember, 10 years ago, you had very big packaging of detergent, very big, you know, like 4 liters bottles and etc. And we moved because we saw that we needed to change. We needed to change the rules of the game with this new insight. It was much more emotional and also much more environmental friendly, etc. We needed to change the size of the packaging, so we were thinking of innovations in relation to recyclable bottles and cans, but also smaller products, better for the environment, etc., and linking much more to the new image the brand has. So here you see an example. I often share this example because it's a very small insight that you can experience just by having one observation, but when you realize having this observation and really analyzing that observation and finding the emotions of mothers in relation to children, how positive they see that, you see also then the value of such an exercise and of the insight, and that value is very well translated into inside the innovation platform and into new branding and also new product development ideas. So then I want to share another case study where we used communities actually to generate insights, and this was in a B2B environment where a leading global crop solutions company asked Fresh Insight to help them connect with the Dutch fruit growers. As I mentioned to you, Fresh Insight really has the mission to connect companies with their customers in a way that you generate insight and start co-creating. So whether that's through interviews like the discovery interviews, help customers in that, or through training people inside the business, or to develop communities. And this was one where we developed a community for the crop solutions company, and the marketing department wanted to connect with the Dutch fruit growers because actually the sales went through distributors, so the growers, they didn't know very well, and in the end they were developing crop solutions in terms of pesticides and insecticides for this company, and they wanted to know, what are their needs and what are their challenges, etc., and to start a real dialogue with their end customers. So there was no direct contact with the growers, and they wanted to experience working with communities, because what they initially liked the marketing department about working with communities, because it was something totally different, it was quite dynamic, and they wanted also to have a much longer dialogue with their customer, with the grower, because if you interview them, for example, you can of course go to the grower and do an interview. An interview normally lasts like 1 or 2 hours, or maybe 3, and he shows you around, okay, maybe an afternoon, and then that's it, you go home. And within a community, you can ask to participate, ask customers to participate for 1 month, for a couple of weeks, or even for 2 months. And in this project, we asked the growers to participate for 2 months. But we were quite skeptical, because actually we weren't sure if growers would participate at all, because they are seen like quite old-fashioned guys. Actually, they are not, and that we discovered through the community as well. But we had a mix also with young and older growers, and with bigger companies. So it was not like one grower. No, it was a company of 10 to 50 people, and business. Compared to some of them were run by their own or by their family, or so we had all kind of companies participating, and the objective was really to understand their needs, what are they going through, to come up with more short-term solutions. So the marketing department wanted to give them solutions to help them be successful actually in their job as growers, to deliver nice apples and pears to the retailers. Okay, so how did we do that? Well, there was of course some preparation work where we conducted a workshop with the company and the marketing team to define the topics and also the assignments. So what are we going to do in the community? What topics do we really want to discuss? Well, it was clear that there were some topics like market development or innovation or sustainability, but also customer journey were coming in the minds of the marketing team. And together with the team, we defined activities that we could do in the community. We recruited 50 growers working with the database of the marketing team, and it was, as I mentioned, a mix of traditional and quite innovative growers, bigger companies, smaller ones, etc. And we planned it in the beginning of the year, because it was it wasn't a busy period for the growers. It was a period that they could reflect on how it went the past year and what they wanted to do in the next year. So it was not the growing season for these apples and pear growers. So what we did was each week, in the first 5 weeks, so the community took 2 months, and in the first 5 weeks we did discovery. So it means that each week we deep dived into a topic, like the sustainability topic or the market development topic, or how they wanted to get advice to really generate insights. We did a lot of creative activities, and I will show you some of them later on after this slide. And by doing that, we generated a lot of information and knowledge and also insights. And what we did, that each week after we generated the information, we fed it back. Of course, we first analyzed it, and we shared it with the marketing team, and together with the marketing team, we decided what information we could feed back to the customers. And when we did that, they really got inspired, asking new questions also to each other and to the marketing team, and it was really like an ongoing dialogue starting. And also the relationship between the customers, that were actually also competitors of each other in the end, started to develop. They learned more about the company that was facilitating the community, but also they learned more about each other. So after the 5 weeks, we had 1 week where we really started to look at, what is the information that we have generated, and what are really the insights from that information. So we started to look at, of course, observations and findings that were linked with emotions and worries and challenges, and that we could look from in a different way, where also the wow factor was there, that we took, okay, this is really something new and different that we haven't seen before. And well, one example of an insight that we actually generated was the following. In the past, you had not a lot of products actually that you would use for crop protection, for protecting the apples and pears, plants and trees. So what you used was maybe 1 or 2 products that were very powerful. But these days, products are like medicine. You have a lot of different products for each disease. You have another one, and you have really, because of the legislation and environmental impact, etc. The products are weaker, and also you need to take a lot of things into account when you apply them. So actually, the life of the grower, but also the people that work for the grower that apply these products, is becoming much more challenging. And actually, the grower sometimes also has challenges deciding what to use in which state, and with what weather conditions, etc. So we could see already that there was an emotion with that information and with that insight, because there was an emotion of fear, of uncertainty, and etc. And when you realize that with your customer, you know that there is an interesting insight underneath that you could use and translate that into, new products and services. And actually the company did that, and together and inside the community, they worked out that insight. They went deeper into that insight, shared that insight with the growers and also with the people inside their own company. And together with the 360 analysis that you then get when you share insights with different people and stakeholders, you can enrich the insights and also refine it and make it more actionable. And they did. And with together in the co-creation weeks that followed the 3 weeks, they come up with ideas to and solutions for that insight. So here you see a couple of screenshots from the community. So here you see some of the growers that participated, and here you see some of the activities that, so we worked a lot with pictures, with indirect questions, with association techniques, etc., to make it also fun and different. They also had some chat sessions, also with one another, facilitated by ourselves. There were also some ranking questions about new ideas, technologies, about advice, what kind of information they collect when they have a problem or a challenge. I think this is really relevant, because what you see also in business-to-business companies and business-to-consumer, of course, that looking at the customer journey is very important, and to see what are the needs within that journey concerning information, but also advice and best practices and other kind of support that they need. And if you understand that well, you can serve them much better. So here we asked what are their needs also in terms of advice, and here there was another creative activity that they needed to do on, put together on how satisfied they were with the current advisor or advising institute, and also how they assess their expertise. So they were looking at what are the, let's say, characteristics of a good advisor, and with all kind of creativity tasks and exercises, we were able to generate insights on what kind of information they needed at what point, and how satisfied were they with that information, and also what were their moments of truth. I mean, there are many kind of suppliers of crop solutions, and what was triggering them to decide one over the other. Those insights was also helping the customers think of new supports and new kind of information, new strategies to create a better customer experience. So here you see about market development and ranking questions. So all this information we took into account. This is another creative exercise. Evaluate your relationship with below companies. The closer you put one to the inner circle, the closer your relationship with them. So by doing all these exercises, you really start to understand, their stories, their relationships, their ideas, their experiences, etc. That you can then, from that, you can extract insights and also new ideas for products and services. So this is very different from doing ordinary market research, where you ask a question and then you get an answer. And this is more trying to, like with the discovery interview, trying to figure out what are the jobs to be done, how satisfied are they with the current solutions, and how can you really help them and serve them better. And here we did the exercise. I just want to show that the 11 quotes and insights that we found were quite powerful and could have a good insight inside them with emotions. They went in a 360 degrees analysis that was done in 1 week in the community, where the growers could add their own reflection, interpretation, and opinion, and also in terms of the solution, what role can the company play for them in terms of the solution. So looking at, let's say, the investment for the company and also the outcome. Of course, the company is involved in a recruitment phase, in these kind of workshops, but also in the co-moderation. As a project leader normally that co-moderates the community more also from a content angle, because we moderate more from, let's say, the facilitation angle, trying to, have the right kind of questions and answers coming up. But there's also a need for a co-moderator from the company side that can reflect on the content, that could ask questions related on the content they see, etc. And of course also in the debriefing moments. But looking at the outcome and also the impact of such a community, you see that so the growers didn't really know each other. Well, some of them, but they were really spread over the country, the Netherlands, and what you saw is that we started more with individual exercises and questions, and of course we had some chat sessions. But afterwards, after 2 weeks, they started opening up more and more and more, because they saw the benefit. They gave information, but they also received back information, analysis, and also other questions and information and insights from the market. What they also really liked was that they saw that they listened, the company really wanted to listen and understand them. They never experienced such an activity before. They were really sort of more honored. At least they really liked the experience and enjoyed it. and they like to be part of the co-creation activities, because later on, after the 2 months communities, still some workshops were planned for going deeper into some of the solutions they were thinking of. And what was also very interesting, that new collaboration with together growers started to collaborate on new initiatives, because they also saw some challenges came up in the community, and they decided that some of them wanted to tackle it together. And I think that was really great that a company can facilitate that as well. So it was a win-win for all. For the company, they generated insights, and they used those insights to fuel innovations in terms of marketing activities and solutions. For the growers, it was a win-win. They learned more about actually themselves, each other, also the company, and they were able to co-create solutions that in the end they were also using, that were better for them, and they got to know each other and started collaborating. So this is also a way to generate insight, but I think even much more than that, also start co-creation activities. Okay. So recognizing its value, we talked about customer insight and what is inside and insights. It's 3 V's. It's the what and the why and the wow. But how do you then evaluate them? Like, how did we evaluate the 11 insights that came from the community, for example? Well, a good and a useful insight, it's always targeted. So somebody needs to feel addressed. It needs to be a target audience. It needs to be true and relevant, so it needs to be around the problem that your customer has, and it needs to be relevant, so it needs to be around an emotional he has. So relevant emotions are, of course, the negative emotion, but you also have positive emotions, like with the dirt is good, it was a positive emotion actually. And it needs to be fresh, so it needs to be a new problem or a new way of looking at a problem. And yeah, I think, so this example is coming actually from my time at Syngenta, where I was, I had this dual role of one in generating consumer insights for fresh produce, so for tomato and also sweet pepper categories. And on the other hand, I was also driving the innovation processes and innovation activities. And there, with the sweet pepper team, we discovered, we saw, looking at the consumer trends, that people were snacking more and more, especially the young generation. Actually, the millennials, 1/3 of their meals are snacks. So that's really becoming very big and important to be in the snacking area. And of course, tomatoes were already far ahead, and the sweet peppers were sort of behind. And actually, we were thinking, so this was also like 7 years ago, and we were thinking of, okay, or 8 years ago even, we're thinking of how to, and at that time there were no snacking peppers. They were just, as you know them, the bell peppers or even the bigger ones that you have, and that's it. And peppers are actually very healthy, as you may know. 100 grams only contains already 300% of your vitamin C daily intake and 100% of your vitamin A daily intake. That is huge. That's much huger than any fruit actually. So peppers are healthy, but people were not snacking peppers. And we had a nice discussion with the team up front, and so there were breeders and there were product developers, breeders, and also marketeers and salespeople, all kind of different people inside. And we were making assumptions. Well, one said, well, I think it's just because of the shape and size. The other said, well, it's just because of the seeds, etc. And so we had a lot of assumptions. And then I said, well, we need to explore that, because we don't know actually. So we were exploring this by using also different methodologies, observing and also combining it with interviews. And we found out actually that people were not snacking sweet pepper because of the persistent taste, because they also say that after eating pepper raw, sweet pepper, you have like some burping effect of you don't feel that great. So it was too heavy. So that insight, so it was really a new way of looking at the challenge, like, okay, why our consumers are not snacking sweet pepper? And it was something fresh. We didn't realize that. So when we realized that, we started to develop a snacking pepper that was, of course, smaller, and it was even seedless, but it also had a fresher taste. And we launched the pepper in 2012, and we also won the Innovation Award with this pepper. So this is an example of, also judging the insights that it's targeted. The insight was targeted. It was targeting this, especially the younger generation. It was truly relevant because young people want to snack more healthy, and that's why also they are snacking more and more tomatoes, these small tomatoes. But actually there was not a lot of options for them, the healthy options. So what you saw is that young people were also snacking unhealthy options, and that of course you don't want. And it was fresh. It was a new way of looking at the problem. So acting on customer insight and how you can really use customer insight in your innovation funnel, and this is just an example of one funnel, and I'm sure you have your own funnels with more or less same or maybe a little bit different processes. But I think the most important part of customer insight is in the discovery phase, that is really fueling your ideation. And also it's relevant in your translation phase. Remember that I talked about lost in translation. So when you have your opportunity, when you have that, okay, we need to come up with products for the snacking area, for peppers or whatever your business is, you need to do customer insight to make the translation a relevant one, because otherwise you come up with this Gerber single products and etc. And what you see is that many companies start customer insight or research or whatever in the go-to-market phase, so that they already have a prototype, they already have a product, and even maybe a whole marketing campaign or brand story, whatever, and they start there. So you shouldn't start there. You should start at discovery, and then that's the main part, and the ideation. And of course you need to guide it further with doing insight testing and more standard consumer research testing. And actually this whole project was guided with customer insights in the discovery, in the ideation, but also in the visibility. We were exploring different peppers on taste, and so what is exactly then the fresh taste for the snacking pepper? We were aiming for that. Then the whole brand experience was about the millennial consumer and the adventurous eater and the convenience. So it was all fueled with customer insight until the launch. So last word, steps in insight activation. So when you have an insight or when you have information that has potential insight inside them, you need to enrich them using a community, like I mentioned, with a 360 degrees of stakeholders, and validate them, like I mentioned, with, is it relevant, is it true, is it fresh? Then from that you derive implications for ideation, and then you test ideas and concepts also with customers and relevant stakeholders. And this is, I think, where you should really start with using insight in your innovation activities and processes. So that's it actually. I will be looking at questions now, and you can always contact me. You see my contact details. I'll just have a look at the questions that came through. So let's see, what do we have? 2 questions I see from question from Graham Duncan. So I agree that preparing your customer for a discovery interview is critical to getting useful insight, but how do you go about educating them beforehand to expect no samples and no different sets of questions, to avoid them going down the normal route of asking, so what's new? Yeah, a very important question, Graham, thanks for that. So what we can provide is training on a discovery interview, and that's normally a one-day training where we can train part of your sales force, normally like maximum of 20 participants, on how to do discovery interviews and also what they can get out of that, and also even practicing how to generate insights from that kind of information. So you should train them. And what is also good, what I also recommend is train sales and also together with marketing and go together, because sometimes your customer has such a close connection, your sales has such a close connection with the customer that you see challenges or difficulties, then I should take along somebody from marketing that then does the interview. So, you know, this is a new person, the customer doesn't know this person as he does the salesperson, and then you create a new kind of an environment. So another question, in the fruit growers example, you say that you selected the most interesting comments, observations. How do you find interesting? I'm hoping that you have some preset criteria. Yeah, so I guess comments, when you see comments, whatever those are, they are related with an emotion, then you have a first indication, okay, let's have a look what that is. So that is a sort of the first selection always for myself when I do insight generation, that you have the information, and then with the emotions you start to say, okay, let's do the exercise. So what is the what is the why, and what is the wow? And if you don't know the why and you only know the what, you need to dig deeper. So you need to call your customer again. So, you know, last time you spoke about this, and I was, you know, could you tell me a little bit about that, and what was hard about it? And you can use, let's say, discovery interview grid a little bit to go deeper into that. Let's see, a question from Andre. How do you manage confidential information and intellectual property and make it safe for customers to share this type of information with you? So, of course, with there are different types of things that you can do. So, for example, with the interviews, you normally say that the information from your customer and his problems are kept confidential in terms of you will not share names, of course, when you are sharing the insights internally, and also when you are promoting the solutions, you will not share that, okay, company X or Z had this and this to say, unless they are okay with that, of course. Depends also on the insights you get. But because the insights are very much about jobs to be done, and it's most of the time it's relevant for all the customers, it's in that generic area that, you know, you don't like share confidential information of the company at all when you present insights. So most of the time there are no really limitations there. But for example, with the community, and of course these people are competitors, you can decide to do some exercises more on an individual base, so not that everybody can read it and etc. If you really want to have more confidential information, you also tell that to them. But then other things you can do more together. So it's sort of, you know, it's always something that you should explore, and also you should be very transparent in with the customers. But as I said, when it comes to customer insights and it's all on their jobs to be done, they're in that generic in the sense that normally you don't see any confidential information together with those. Like with the insight with the growers, that they are insecure in these moments of truth. This is something that everybody recognized, and there was no confidential information, you know, together with that past the insight. Question from Christians. How big are the samples for prototype feedback, and how do you define that? So prototype feedback, so this is actually more at, let's go back to the let's say to your innovation platform. And prototype feedback you normally do when you have like prototypes, right? And what I would recommend is to do as fast as possible the prototype feedback with a smaller group of customers, to have a sort of a co-creation thing going on. Like you can do that, for example, I've done that a lot in communities and with consumers also, that you send consumers each month a new prototype, if you have, of course, and then you sort of co-create it really together. And with customers you can actually already do the same. You can show a drawing of the prototype. You can show already a first very rough prototype where they can really give their feedback to. And those samples I will keep small, but if you're moving more into the end, into your final prototype, then I work with a bigger sample, more with a quantitative sample, like, well, depending on your market size, etc., but could be from 100 to maybe 300 people, and that's more on a consumer level. So on a customer level, you need to, have at least a representative base. So I guess maybe depending on how much customers you have, but maybe 50 or 100 could be already sufficient for you. So there are different ways. So I would, as fast as possible, work with prototypes, smaller amount of customers involved, really co-creating, and then when you are more at the end, go for a larger base to quantify. Okay. Yeah, so I see that's already 6:04. So I don't know, Diana, if there are some last questions, or
I think that was really all from the question side. You can also send us an email later on, of course.
Yeah. Well, guys, I hope you learned a little bit more on customer insights, and I hope it shows also the value of it, of working with insight, because you will increase your success rate. I mean, I've seen the success rate increase from going from 30% success rate to 70% success rate if you really start, co-creating, doing customer insight work, etc. So I think it's really relevant for your innovations. Thank you. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Elena, once again, and big thank you to all our webinar attendees, of course, for your time as well. So I hope you enjoyed it and you were able to grab some takeaways.